Subscribe because it's free.
Elias crouched in the dirt, breath ragged, blood dripping from a cut above his eye. The violet sky glared down, twin suns scorching the cracked ground of the alien arena. He'd survived another fight, barely. A human mechanic turned prisoner. He wasn't built for this, but he'd learned fast. 3 years ago, the Kaivar snatched him from a wrecked freighter, dragged him to this hellhole planet, and threw him into their games. They were insectoid bastards, all clicking mandibles and cold, compound eyes, obsessed with watching lesser species bleed. To them, humans were weak, soft flesh, no claws, no armor, just toys that screamed well. Elias proved them wrong every time he stood back up, fists clenched, jaw tight. He wasn't a warrior, but he was stubborn as hell, and that kept him alive. Today, the crowd's chittering grew louder, a wave of cruel excitement. Elias wiped sweat from his brow, expecting the next beast or blade. Instead, the Kaivar overlord, a hulking thing with jagged spines, raised a claw. A gift! It rasped, voice like grinding stones. The guards hauled something forward, dumping it at his feet. It wasn't a weapon or food. It was alive. A girl, alien, small, barely 3 feet tall. Her body trembled, bird-like, covered in dull, bioluminescent feathers that flickered like dying embers. Her wings hung limp, twisted at wrong angles, bones jutting through torn skin. She curled into herself, eyes wide with terror, glowing faintly in the dim light. The Kaivar laughed, a grating chorus. Entertainment, the Overlord said. Use it, break it more. We watch. Elias stared, stomach turning. She wasn't human, but pain was universal. He saw it in her shallow breaths, the way she flinched when the crowd roared. The Kaivar expected him to play their game, hurt her, prove he was as savage as they thought humans could be. He knelt instead, slow, hands open. She recoiled, letting out a sharp, broken click. A sound of fear, maybe a plea. I'm not them, he muttered, voice low, rough from disuse. Up close, her injuries were worse. Feathers matted with blood, one leg bent unnaturally, a feverish heat radiating from her. She'd been starved, beaten, left to rot. A toy, they called her. Disposable. His fist tightened. He'd fixed engines with less to work with than this. Scraps and grit. This was no different. She was alive, and that meant something. The crowd's laughter faded as he stayed still, watching her. She clicked again, softer, head tilting. Maybe she sensed he wasn't lunging. Her eyes, huge, reflective, locked on his, searching. Elias didn't know her species, her language, her world. Didn't matter. He'd seen enough death here, caused some too, but this was a line he wouldn't cross. The Kaivar wanted a show. They get one, just not the kind they expected. He slid his arms under her, careful of the shattered wings, and lifted. She was light, fragile, like holding a cracked glass sculpture. She tensed but didn't fight, too weak or too confused to resist. The guards hissed, amused, stepping aside as he carried her toward his cell. The Overlord's voice cut through. It's yours now, human. If it dies, you fight double next time. Keep it alive if you can. Elias didn't look back. The threat hung heavy, but he'd heard worse. Double fights? Fine. He'd survived worse odds. The cell door clanged shut behind him, a rusted metal slab in a stone wall. Inside, it was damp, dim, the air thick with mold. He set her down on the pile of rags he called a bed, kneeling beside her. She shivered, feathers flickering faintly, a pulse of light in the gloom. You're a mess, he said, half to himself, scanning her wounds. Broken bones, infection creeping in, hunger gnawing at her frame. He had no tools, no medicine, just his hands and whatever he could scrounge. But he'd rebuilt a fusion drive with wire and spit once. This was just another fix. Harder, sure, but not impossible. She clicked again, weaker now, eyes fluttering. Hey, he said sharper, snapping her awake. Stay with me? He tore a strip from his tattered shirt, wrapping it around her bleeding leg. It wasn't much, but it'd slow the loss. Her wings were the real problem. Splintered, useless. He didn't know if they could heal, but he'd try. The Kaivar thought she was trash, thought he'd toss her aside or worse. They didn't get it. Humans didn't just break things. They mended them too. Elias leaned closer, voice steady despite the ache in his ribs. You're not dying on my watch. Hear me? We're in this together now. The cell walls seemed to close in, the weight of the arena pressing down. He didn't know how long they'd give him, days, maybe hours, before they dragged him out again. Didn't matter. He'd work with what he had. Her breathing steadied, just a little, as he adjusted the makeshift bandage. She watched him, silent now, those glowing eyes tracking every move. Maybe she understood. Maybe she didn't. Either way, he wasn't letting her go without a fight. The Kaivar could shove their rules. This wasn't their game anymore. It was his. Elias hunched over the alien girl in the dim cell, his callous fingers probing the edges of her broken wings. She flinched at every touch, letting out soft clicks that echoed off the damp stone. He didn't have a name for her yet, but girl didn't fit anymore. She was something else, something fragile yet fierce. He settled on Lyra after the trilling sound she made when she wasn't gasping in pain. Hold still, Lyra, he said, voice gruff but calm. She didn't understand the words, not yet, but she froze, eyes glowing like twin lanterns in the dark. Trust was a long shot, but she wasn't fighting him. That was enough for now. Her fever burned hotter, sweat, or whatever kind produced, beating on her feathered skin. Time was short. He leaned back, wiping grime from his hands. Communication was the first hurdle. She clicked and trilled, a language he couldn't crack, and his own words just made her tilt her head. He pointed to himself. Elias. Then to her. Lyra. She mimicked the sounds, mangling them, Elas, Lyra. But it was a start. He grabbed a shard of metal from the cell floor, scratching lines in the dirt. A stick figure for him, a winged one for her. She watched, then reached out, claw trembling, and drew a jagged shape, a mountain maybe, or a ship. Her click sped up, urgent. She was trying to tell him something. He nodded. Keep going. Her story came in pieces, scratched into the dust and pieced together with halting sounds. She was a Viri, she said, or that's what he made of Aviri. Her people flew, sang, lived free until the Kaivar came. They tore her world apart, enslaved her kind, snapped her wings when she fought back. Her feathers dulled as she spoke, light fading with the memory. Elias's jaw tightened. He knew the Kaivar's cruelty, saw it in the arena every day, but this was personal now. Bastards, he spat, loud enough to make her flinch. He softened his tone. Not you, them. We'll fix this, Lyra. You and me. She stared, unblinking, like she wanted to believe him. Fixing her was a real fight. Her wings hung like shredded sails, bones splintered, tendons torn. He had no medkit, no scanner, just junk from a prisoner's life. He rifled through his stash, wire from a busted panel, a rusted blade he'd hidden, scraps of cloth from his own shirt. Mechanic's hands, he muttered, twisting the wire into splints. He braced her wings, gentle but firm, ignoring her whimpers. She needed stability, even if it hurt. Infection was next. Green pus seeped from cuts on her leg. He remembered a guard tossing a salve tube after a fight, cocky, like it was charity. It sat in a corner now, half empty. He'd have to steal more. But for now, he smeared it on, the sharp scent cutting through the cell's stink. Lyra's breathing eased, just a fraction. Days blurred. He worked by feel, adjusting the splints, rationing his water to clean her wounds. The Kaivar didn't care, didn't check. They figured she'd die soon anyway. Elias figured different. He tore apart his meal scraps, picking out bits she could stomach, gristly protein cubes, tasteless but filling. She nibbled, hesitant, then ravenous. Good, he said, grinning despite the ache in his own gut. Her feathers flickered brighter, a pulse of life returning. He had to risk more. During guards patrol, he staged a coughing fit, loud and hacking, slipping a hand into supply pouch when the Kaivar turned. Another tube of salve, small victory. The lash across his knuckles when they caught him was worth it. Lyra started talking back, mimicking him. Elias, she chirped clear now. Safe. He chuckled, dry and hoarse. Not yet, but we're getting there. He taught her words, water, pain, friend, and she answered with songs. Not just sounds, but melodies, low and haunting, vibrating through the cell. They hit him like a punch, stirring something deep, hope maybe, or just the will to keep going. Her voice was a weapon, he realized, dulled by her injuries, but still there. Sing for me, he said one night, slumped against the wall. She did, and for a moment, the arena's weight lifted. He saw her as she'd been, flying free, a streak of light across some alien sky. The bond grew fast. She leaned into his shadow now, not away. He risked everything, food, rest, his own skin, to keep her alive. One dawn, the guard forgot to refill his canteen. Lyra's fever spiked again, lips cracked. Elias waited, then darted out during a shift change, swiping a jug from a cart. The Kaivar spotted him, club swinging. He took the blows, ribs bruising, arm numb, and stumbled back with the water. Drink, he rasped, pouring it into her cup claws. She did, eyes locked on his, glowing steady. He sank down, pain screaming through him, but he smiled. Told you. Together. Her wings twitched, testing the splints. Not healed, not yet, but closer. Elias watched, exhausted but unbowed. The Kaivar thought he'd fail, thought she was nothing. They didn't know humans, didn't know him. He'd rebuild her, piece by piece, no matter what it took. Lyra trilled softly, a note of thanks, and he nodded. Keep singing, Lyra. We got work to do. Elias knew the Kaivar were watching closer now. Lyra's feathers glowed too bright, her trills too steady. The cell wasn't secret anymore. Guards lingered outside, their claws tapping the stone, and the air thickened with suspicion. He adjusted her wing splints, hands steady despite the bruises blooming across his arms. She'd gained weight, her fever broken, but she wasn't safe. Neither was he. The overlord, Zaph, stalked him one morning, his spine bulk filling the doorway. It lives, he rasped, mandibles clicking. Too well. His compound eyes glinted, cold and unblinking. You fix it, human. Now performs. Elias stood, fists clenched. She's not a damn puppet. Zath's claw lashed out, splitting skin across his back. It dances or you bleed more. Lyra shrank back, clicking fast, but Elias held his ground. She's not your toy anymore. Zath didn't wait for obedience. Guards dragged them both into the arena, chains rattling. The crowd roared, a wall of chittering hunger under the violet sky. Lyra's splints clacked as she stumbled, her glowing eyes wide with terror. Elias pulled her close, whispering, "Stay near me." Zaph loomed above, voice booming. "Fight, human. Earn its keep." A gate groaned open and a beast lumbered out. Twice Elias's height, all muscle and tusks, drooling acid. The chains on Lyra snapped tight, pinning her to a post. Elias dodged the first charge, dirt exploding on the creature's hooves. He had no weapon, just his wits and a body screaming from old wounds. The beast swung, grazing his shoulder, blood soaking his shirt. Lyra cried out, a sharp trill that cut through the chaos. The sound hit the beast like a shockwave. It staggered, ears twitching, confused. Elias froze, then glanced at her. Her song, those Aviri notes, weren't just pretty, they were powered, dulled by her pain, but waking up. "Sing, Lyra," he shouted, rolling as a tusk gouged ground. She hesitated, then let loose a low, thrumming melody. The beast swayed, dazed, giving Elias an opening. He grabbed a splintered pole from the dirt, ramming it into the creature's flank. It bellowed, acid-spitting, but he kept moving, kept her voice in his ears. The crowd's cheers turned sour. They wanted blood. Not this. Elias took a hit, ribs cracking, but he stayed between Lyra and the beast until it collapsed, twitching. Zath hissed, furious. Clever human. Too clever. Back in the cell, Elias spat blood, leaning against the wall. Lyra knelt beside him, her claws brushing his arm. "Elias hurt," she said, voice small but clear. "For me." He grunted, forcing a grin. "Worth it. You're stronger than they think." Her song had saved them, but it had drawn a target too. Zaf wouldn't let this slide. Elias traced the splints on her wings. They held, but she needed more time. He needed a way out. "Your voice," he said, tapping his temple. "That's our ticket. We're not dying here." She nodded, feathers pulsing brighter. He scavenged his stash, reinforcing her splints with the last of his wire, then tore his rations in half. "Eat. We got a fight coming." The Kaivar moved fast. Zatha's voice echoed to the cell later, cold as steel. "It sings well. Tomorrow, it dies for all to see. A lesson." Guard slammed the door, leaving silence. Elias's stomach sank, but his mind raced. Escape was now or never. Lyra's wings flexed, still weak, but her eyes burned with something new. Hope, maybe trust. "We're leaving," he said, gripping her claw. "Your song, my hands. Together." She trilled, soft but firm. He mapped the arena in his head. Tunnels, guards, exits. Risky, but he'd beaten worse odds. He just needed a spark. Zaf gave it to him hours later, storming in alone to gloat. "Your pet's last day, human." Elias moved without thinking. He lunged, ramming the rusted blade from his stash into Zatha's leg joint. The Overlord screeched, clawing back, but Elias ducked, shoving him into the wall. "Lyra now," he yelled. She sang, a piercing, jagged note that shook the air. Zaf faltered, mandibles snapping wildly, and Elias slammed the blade deeper, twisting. The Overlord's armor cracked, ichor spilling, but he swung, catching Elias's side. Pain flared, hot and wet, blood soaking through. Lyra's song surged, a sonic blast that rattled the cell. Guards outside stumbled, dazed. Elias grabbed her, staggering. "Run." They bolted into the tunnels, her claws clicking, his boots pounding. Alarms wailed, but her voice lingered, a shield of sound. The tunnels twisted, dark and slick with mold. Elias's vision blurred, his side leaking red, but he kept her ahead, guiding her through the maze. "Keep moving," he rasped, shoving past a fallen crate. Her wings brushed the walls, splints holding, just. Footsteps thundered behind, Kaivar closing in. He didn't look back. Lyra's trill steadied him, a lifeline in the chaos. They weren't free yet, but they weren't dead either. "Together," he growled, pushing forward, one hand on her, the other clutching the blade. The tunnel split ahead. Freedom or trap, he'd find out soon enough. Elias stumbled through the tunnel, Lyra's claw tight in his grip. Blood slicked his side, each step a knife in his ribs, but he didn't slow. Her wings fluttered, weak but lifting her just off the ground. Splints creaking. Behind them, Kaivar's shouts ricocheted, claws scraping stone. The tunnel split, left of the arena, right to a hangar. He veered right, gambling on chaos. "Stay with me," he rasped, voice raw. Lyra trilled, a quick, sharp note, and he felt it. Her trust, her fight. They burst into the hangar, a cavern of rusted ships and flickering lights. Guards spun, weapons rising, but Lyra sang, a low, thrumming wave that staggered them. Elias darted forward, slamming his blade into a control panel. Sparks flew, alarms blaring, and prisoners in nearby cages rattled their bars, voices rising. He shoved Lyra toward a small craft, its hatch ajar. She scrambled up, feathers glowing fierce. He followed, slamming the door as Kaivar poured in. The cockpit was a mess. Wires dangling, screens cracked, but he'd flown worse. His hands moved fast, hot wire in the ignition, blood smearing the controls. The engine sputtered, then roared. Guards banged on the hull, claws screeching, but Lyra's song hit again, higher, sharper, cracking their armor. The ship lurched, lifting off as Elias yanked the yoke. Other prisoners broke free in the chaos, seizing ships, their shouts echoing his name. "Elias! Elias!" He grinned, teeth gritted against the pain. "Let's go, Lyra." The hangar doors loomed, half open. Kaivar fired, bolts sizzling past, one grazing his arm. He didn't flinch, steering straight. Lyra clung to the co-pilot seat, singing louder, a sonic shield that warped the air. The ship scraped through, metal shrieking, and punched into the violet sky. Behind, the arena shrank, a pit of dust and rage. Elias aimed for stars, hands shaking but sure. "We're out," he said, voice breaking. Lyra's song softened, a melody of relief, her eyes locked on him. He nodded, chest tight, not just from the wound. They'd done it. Together. Freedom didn't last long. Zatha's voice crackled over the comms. Alive? Furious. "You'll burn, human." A patrol ship loomed, cannons charging. Elias swerved, the craft rattling. But he was fading, blood pooling under him, vision graying. "Lyra," he said, pointing to controls. "You fly." She clicked, panicked, but he guided her claws to the yoke. "Like your wings. Feel it." She hesitated, then gripped tight, steering clumsy but steady. He slumped back, watching her. Her feathers blazed, wings twitching free of the splints. She was healing because of him. "Good," he muttered, coughing red. "Keep going." The patrol closed in, a shadow against the stars. Elias forced himself up one last play. He rerouted power, frying the shields to boost the engines. "Hold on." The ship surged, a desperate sprint, dodging fire. Lyra's song rose, a full, shattering blast that hit the pursuer head-on. Its hull buckled, spinning off, and Elias laughed, hoarse and wild. "That's my girl." The stars blurred, a tunnel of light. Other ships, prisoner ships, flashed past, escaping too. His spark had lit a fire. He sank back, breath shallow, hands slipping from the controls. Lyra caught it, trilling soft, urgent. "Elias, stay." He couldn't. The wound was too deep, the fight too long. He smiled, faint but real. "Worth it," he whispered, eyes on her. She cradled him, singing a Naviri lullaby, gentle, mournful, a sound of home he'd never know. The ship steadied, her claws deft now, flying true. Darkness crept in, but he saw her wings flex, free at last, glowing like a beacon. His head lolled, breath gone, but the rebellion roared on, ships scattering, voices chanting his name across the void. He'd given her life, given them all a chance. Humanity's mark, etched in starlight. Time passed, days, maybe weeks. Lyra stood on a new world, her people's remnant, skies wide and blue. Her wings stretched, healed, catching the wind. She sang Elias' story to the Aviri, her voice carrying over cliffs and valleys. "A human," she said, "who saw me when I was broken, who fought when he could have turned away." Her feathers shimmered, brighter than ever, a testament to his hands, his will. The Aviri listened, heads bowed, then lifted their own songs, tributes to a stranger who changed everything. Lyra gazed upward, stars piercing the dusk. "Elias," she trilled a vow, "I live for us." His name spread, across worlds, through whispers. A mechanic, a prisoner, a man who defied the Kaivar with nothing but grit and heart. Lyra flew, her wings cutting the air, each beat a promise kept. She'd never forget, the human who risked it all, who turned a cruel gift into a revolution. The galaxy shifted, slow but sure, because one man said no, because he healed her, because he was human.